live from Flagey and Carcassonne. It's
ZN
Live. That's right. We have the whole team there in Flagey. How are you, Lior?
We are good. I'm very happy to introduce you, I'm very happy to introduce to you Connor, who is, of course, our guest. We're more about him later, but also the entire, not the entire, but sorry, I'm not very fluent today. The entire marketing team. And there's someone from from sales who are supporting us, usually behind the scenes, but just decided to introduce themselves because you deserve to see their beautiful faces. They're always helping us, making sure all the messages get out. That's why all of you know Zeden so well, and they also help us with Zeden Live every week. So thank you guys. You are doing a fantastic job. We're going to get out of the way. Look how great they are. And they're going to continue to support us throughout this session. Thank you for being with us.
I'll do some background noise.
In the Flagey office, not with Phil, because Phil is eating expensive food in France this week. Right, Phil?
Indeed. So I'm live here from Carcassonne in France. More on this soon. And very happy to have Connor Allen on the show. Connor is an experienced communicator. He's actually been in the political side of communication, working on Brexit, very exciting things. He's working in the corporate world of car manufacturing and those kind of issues. And he's also launched a very exciting podcast, which I was listening to recently, called Pluxcast. So maybe I'll start with that. Connor, welcome to the show, and tell us what got you to start this podcast.
Well, thank you so much for introducing me. First of all, I have to say it's not just me who launched it. It's me and my wonderful, fabulous boss, Patrick Keating. And that kind of tells a story about how it was created. So we were sat around one day in the office and we're kind of thinking to ourselves, how do we improve our communications? How do we improve our lobbying? How do we improve our influence in the bubble? So we thought, this is kind of the start of the digital revolution that we're putting in place. So we thought the easy, low-hanging fruit was to establish our own personal profiles using a podcast. And so Pluxcast was born. And then we just went and did it. And I think kind of many people in the Euroball have these ideas and they have this great innovation, but they never actually follow through and never actually go and do it. So yeah, less than 5 minutes in, bit of advice, just do it.
Fantastic. Actually, something.
Yeah, exactly. It's an elite membership club.
That's right.
Yeah. So, and I think it's very interesting. Actually, when I was at university, I started a college magazine, which I use as an excuse to go and interview people, just to find out more about them and just say, I want to sit with you, just pick your brains on a couple of things. And I think it's a very interesting thing to basically talk to people, ask them what they're doing, how they got started, and what they're looking to get out of it. Now, you're quite active on social media, I think particularly on Twitter. And I think one of the big questions a lot of communicators have is how they manage the balance between their personal communication and the corporate environment they're in. Basically, how do you make sure that, a lot of people hesitate to commit to communicating because they're worried that it might clash or it might not work. Obviously, you've done that. You're doing that with Pluxcast. So how do you manage those kind of dual personalities? And what would be your advice to other people in terms of building their own personal profile online?
Absolutely. Well, indeed, I think we're starting to see the kind of birth of this kind of new era of social media champions, as I call them. And these are people who really, in effect, become kind of brand ambassadors. And they're kind of taking the values of the company and they're taking the message of the company and they're making it their own and throwing it out there into the EU bubble. One thing, if you ask me for advice, you have to know your stuff, you have to know your lines, and you have to really believe in the company that you're working for. Because if you're there for the European Bin Manufacturer Association and you don't really care about your job and you're only seeing your own role as post tweet every so often about bins, then you're not going to be doing it. It's not going to be useful for you. What you really need to be doing is believing, be passionate about your job, and from then everything flows. Because if you truly do believe, you're not going to make the mistakes. You're not going to post the wrong thing. You're not going to post something contradictory. And guess what? It's fine to make a mistake. Even if you do, post a correction. Who cares?
Yeah, I think you're making.
Oh, we've lost Phil.
Phil was going to say, I think you're making a very.
And you need to make sure that you're enjoying the environment that you're working in order to be able to communicate on a personal level. And actually, that brings me to one of the channels you use, which is Twitter. And I believe Leo had a question on Twitter for you.
Yes, I love your presence on Twitter because I feel it's not bland. I feel you have a personality. I feel like, even before I knew you in person, I understood a little bit about who you were on Twitter. And I wondered if you could share a little bit about what your secret is. How do you do what you do?
Be honest to yourself. Well, you're exactly the same, right? You don't change your persona just because you're Leo Worker to 7 Live. And I don't change mine. And it's kind of, I'm very fortunate to have a company and a boss who actually do understand who I am and kind of my own personality, and then it shines through a bit. They're not asking me to change who I am. They're not asking me to dial down any of the things that make me me. And I don't think they should. If you're the head of a communications department and you have this great young team of people between the ages of 21 and 27, I think the worst thing you can do is suppress them. And by the way, that's the meta across the Euro bubble, is to take these people with so much enthusiasm, personality, people who know how these new tools work, they have their TikTok, people like these in the room, and these communications managers suppress them, and you have these people who are like 65 and they've just joined Twitter and they're telling their young staff full of innovation how to do things. It's not really the best approach. So in my company, they kind of let me shine through a bit and then let me kind of express my own personality. So I'm quite lucky that I can be myself. But then you also have to know the limits, because it's a bit embarrassing to get into arguments all the time where you're throwing insults and that sort of thing. So you have to also kind of be respectful, be kind of appropriate as well.
What are the limits other than being respectful?
How do you mean?
Absolutely. What's that?
How do you mean?
I was wondering what the limits are other than being respectful. Sorry, I'm just trying to.
I don't know. I think it's to realize your role, and you're not necessarily there to be the gospel of the company you're representing. I think you also have to build in a degree of separation. So I'm Connor Allen and I work for the company. And my views are shared with the company because I'm so passionate and full of enthusiasm for that company. But I am still my own character and I am my own personality. If you look at the most successful communicators in the Euro, it's these people who shine through, right? So you have your top 50 influencers. What do you know about all of them? Or the top 50 accounts even. And they're all human beings who do this. If you think of people like John Worth, who loves railways, right? And you look at people like Andrew Stroman, I think he came first this year. Well, not for long, Andrew. But these are all human beings, human individuals who let their personality shine through. And that's really the ticket. That's really how to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. And I think we have a question actually on the comments from Ivan, who's actually just behind there, saying, do you have any tips on finding one's passion? So maybe on a broader scale. Did you find your passion, and how does one find their passion?
Absolutely. It's difficult, and it's difficult for the younger you are, the more difficult it is, because you're not necessarily in a position where you can say no to a job, right? But I do find people often take jobs they really shouldn't. If you're not passionate about industry, don't go to industry. Go to an NGO or whatever you like. It's about knowing your own character and taking the decision to go in the direction you want to go, which obviously you can't really do if you have to say no to a job. You're not in a position to do that. But then also, I think people who are slightly older or people who are slightly more developed in their career, they find themselves in a niche and they find themselves kind of shoehorned into the last 5 years of their job history. It's about kind of being cognizant of that and challenging yourself and always be reflecting on yourself. Is this where I want to be? Is this what I want to do? Or do I have a plan in place to get there? And eventually, you're going to find yourself in a job that you love, with colleagues that you love, environments such as this, and you're going to be kicking ass.
Absolutely. And I think the key is that you need to ask yourself, is this environment right for me? And it's completely, for some people, the institutions are a fabulous environment. For other people, it's the worst kind of place to work. And I think you need to leave the places that don't fit you for whatever reason at different times. And you need to look for the things where you really connect and you can find your thing. But it's a lot of trial and error. That's the other thing. You're not going to find, I think, one single answer. You're going to have to kind of try different things. So I would say that. I want to come back to Twitter very quickly. There's been a lot of discussions, obviously, since Elon Musk took over, a big discussion about the blue tick. Now, what do you think is the direction that Twitter is heading in right now? I know that you personally like Twitter, but what do you think Twitter is going to be for advertisers, the news world, for journalists, 6 months or a year from now? Do you think it'll still have the reputation it had pre-Elon Musk, or do you think it's going down, or do you think there's going to be some surprises in play?
I think Twitter's getting better and better, and I think the reputation is getting better and better. We are in a communications bubble, and ultimately everybody kind of bounces off each other, and everyone has their own kind of environment which they're operating with. Within the Euro bubble, we have one opinion on Twitter, which is bad. Okay, and I noticed this because I'm the only one left with a blue tick. But for me, this is crazy. I mean, you two don't have blue ticks. I'm going to ask you, why don't you have one? Because in theory, you pay $8 a month and you get higher impressions, you get longer videos, you get prioritized comments. If you are a professional, these are useful tools. Why aren't you paying for it?
No, it's a very good conversation that Phil and I just had before this meeting. I said, I'm actually going to try it out because I feel that it's my personal responsibility as a communicator and who advises. Sorry?
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, and I want to try it out to see if it gives me more visibility, if it gives me more exposure. I get longer tweets. So I don't, for €8 a month, I think it's worth a shot. And I don't feel that I have to take a political stand on Elon Musk, or that €8 is gonna, So I actually agree with you that that's a good thing to try. And what do you feel when you use it? Does it give you that extra exposure?
I noticed immediately that I have extra exposure.
Okay.
I think what a lot of people did in the Euro bubble is that there were quite a few prominent journalists. I'm not going to say names, but it was Dave Keating, who I loved to bits. And these people basically turned around one day, and because of their own politics, because of their own dislike for Elon Musk, they eschewed this very, very useful professional tool. And it scared a lot of people. And, I think I was chatting with someone the other day, and they said, it's not cool anymore because, nobody wants this. People make fun of me. Don't listen to people making fun of you. People make fun of me all the time, you can tell. It's part and parcel of putting yourself out there as a public persona. So to circle way back, and you've asked me, is Twitter going to evolve? Is it going to be a useful tool for advertisers? I think yes. I think people have been predicting the death of Twitter for almost a decade now, since Trump came in, right? It's got better and better. We see these things like Mastodon. What a useless pile of rubbish that was. I'm getting bad reactions in the room. Nobody used it. Nobody wants to go there, and it died. I think Twitter's got a long and successful
But what I don't
future.
understand, though, Connor, is €8 for individuals is one thing, but €1,000 for organizations,
That's a bit different.
just to advertise, that's crazy. Though.
No, absolutely. And that's difficult. Sorry, go on, Phil.
So, yeah. No, I was just going to say, I think that fundamentally you need to be agnostic to channels. Channels are just a tool to get your message from one place to the other. And I don't think it matters whether it's Twitter, Mastodon, Facebook, LinkedIn. I think what matters is what works. And, as communicators, I think we need to be scientific about it. And so we need to test different things. I think that, Elon Musk's strategy on Twitter and on the verification is actually pretty disastrous from a commerce perspective. I don't think he's done it well, and I think he could have done it much more effectively. That's one thing. Whether the underlying strategy is good or not we'll see in 6 months. I don't think, and I think he's got too excited about Twitter personally, and he's got too invested in the, becoming a celebrity Twitterer at the same time as running the company. But I also think that we can't. I think Twitter will probably be around, but what this episode reminds us is that we constantly need to look for alternatives. So I think this is a very good time for people to check out how they can get better at LinkedIn. I think they should be experimenting with Mastodon, and maybe it will disappear, maybe it won't. The point is, we don't know the answer, and I think we should be trying different things. And I agree, we can try the blue tick to see what it does. I didn't care about the verification before, so it's not, to me, it's you're doing things in order to get a message. It depends. You calibrate your messages across different channels. But I think the most important thing is to be agnostic and open. And I want to jump. We have a couple of questions actually in comments. We have Sebastian asking you, Connor, what are the limits of humor in EU bubble communication? And he says he's a big fan of you. Keep up the good work. We have Gaia saying great insights. We have Marwan saying, how do you know you're on the same page with employers when it comes to values and virtues? I mean, we've talked a little bit about that. Authenticity. And how can a new platform replace Twitter? Do you think you have enough digital communication platforms? And Gaia says that she loves LinkedIn. So maybe we can just go to the question about humor. How do you use humor in your communication, and how important is it to get your point across? DG Memes, here we go.
Well, DG Meme is one of the perhaps largest hubs of influence in the bubble. Right? Beyond that, MVP Assistant. There's many others. There's even comedy sets, the Schumann Show, right? Based purely on people from the old bubble going into comedy. Is it useful as a professional tool? I am naturally kind of bubbly, and I make stupid jokes, and I'm a bit dorky, and there's lots of nodding in the room, and I don't quite like that. But that's part of me. Okay, I'm not a serious. I'm a serious dude, but I'm not too overly serious. I don't take myself too seriously. So that's part of my personality. Okay, if you are not a person with a lot of humor.
You're German. Sorry, I didn't say that. Just a joke.
For our German colleagues, commission colleagues, if that isn't you, then so be it. Play into your own strengths. Play into your own.
Apologies to our German viewers.
Bit of Dutch German rivalry I'm sensing here. But I mean, it's a reflection of you personally, and it's a reflection of your own communication style. So to say, are we strategically inserting humor into arguments to make them more appealing or something? No, it's just that is the way I communicate the best, and that is, I feel, one of my strengths, although many people disagree with that.
I agree with you.
I think we need a serious humor strategy that we built into all our key approaches to communication. So I think before going to to recommendations here, I want to check if at your end there's any other questions, or are you getting some prop for the recommendations? Yes, you are.
No, sorry.
All right. So if we're ready for recommendations, then roll jingle. Okay, so Connor, what is your recommendation to our viewers for this week? What do you think they should be listening to, watching, reading?
Well, funnily enough, there is one up-and-coming amazing podcast called Pluscast, and hosted by these two very talented British people. And you should go and listen. Available on all good podcasting platforms, of course. But beyond my own shameless self-promotion, I would say depends what you're looking for. I mean, I was chatting to Julian Hose, who hosts the French Dispatch, and it's a blog. He writes about French politics in an easy and accessible way. That's super good. If you want your fix of pro-Macron news, you go to the French Dispatch. Also, if you're looking for a more kind of serious thing on lobbying strategies and that sort of thing, Aaron McLaughlin has a great blog. He posts a lot of keen insight there. I noticed Sebastian Rodriguez wrote in a question. Shout out to Sebastian. He was the first ever guest on Pluscast. So he runs a little blog called the European Campaign Playbook. He talks about many of the similar things you do. It's pretty awesome too. And brings together this community of communicators, much like yourself.
Nice.
Leo, what are your recommendations for the week?
So my recommendation of this week is to not just use AI for text and for, to use ChatGPT, but also to use it for pictures. We all know that it's not so easy to do a photo shoot, to take all your clothes, to dress up. And I also know, because I give a lot of LinkedIn trainings, that a lot of LinkedIn profile pictures still are not great. They're not zoomed in. They have a lot of things going on in the background. And then if you're on the feed, you can hardly make out if there's a person on there or a dog. And so you need a good picture, and there are solutions for that. And that solution is for AI. There are different tools. For example, Apply. I don't know, Fantasy AI, but there's another tool that I have just tried to use today, which was really interesting, which is called Retrato. Retrato is a tool that makes you look fantastic in the literal sense of the word, with all sort of flowers behind, but really, really funky looking. And the amazing thing is that the pictures that come out look like an upgraded version of yourself, like yourself the way you always wanted to look. Amazing. It's like, and you show it to your family, and it's like, when did you have these pictures made? Your outfits are the outfits you wish you would have bought. Your face is your skin, the way you wish it would look. It's like yourself, but younger and better and more beautiful. So yeah, it's perfect for a LinkedIn profile picture. So if you're looking for a new job, or if you're just updating your profile, which you should do every day, then these AI tools are just fascinating to try. And all you need to do is upload 15 pictures to this tool, 15 to 20 pictures, 15 pictures to this tool, pay a little bit of money. One of these tools is 6-7 euros. The other is 9 if you just want to get 3 pictures. You get a whole list of pictures that they generate. Some of them are going to be awful. Some of them are going to be just like you. You choose the one you want, you download them, and they are yours. I got a lot of questions because this post got quite a lot of visibility about what are they going to do with these pictures. According to the people that own these tools, they're going to delete all your original pictures as well as the pictures that they create from you. So there should not be any concern about what is going to happen with the pictures that they create from you. One of the people in our network, Sean Hayes, said maybe you should trademark your own face. Seems like a good idea. If anyone knows how to do that, then please drop that advice into the comments for us. What about you, Phil? What's your recommendation for this week?
Well, first of all, I want to try that photo thing, but I can't find 15 pictures of myself that I can even begin to consider as decent ones. But it's definitely on my to-do list to try.
It's easy at all, and you can also just take 15 pictures with your phone. It's just it does have to have source file. Just take 15 pictures smiling, just as many different types, because I took all the pictures with my mouth closed. So the tool then made up my teeth, and really strange looking teeth. So you need to take as many different and then just upload them, and they'll be fine. It's not difficult.
Well, my recommendation, which is I think something that everybody at ZN and most of the people watching us would agree with, is that you have to travel. And the great thing about working remotely is that you can travel from anywhere, or you can work from anywhere. I'm actually in Carcassonne right now in France, and it's a beautiful city that's been kind of medieval city that's been restored. So we were walking around it. It was very nice, very interesting. But when you travel, you see things through a different perspective, and I think it opens up your mind to new ideas. So I would recommend to visit Carcassonne, which is actually a very well-established place, but again, not necessarily the prime destination. So I think it's like a lot of things that we've been working on, things that you can discover around Europe, as in a wonderful Discover EU campaign. So that's my recommendation: travel, and if you can come to Carcassonne, there's a very good Ryanair flight from Charleroi. You can be here in no time. So that's all I think we have time for this weekend. For this week. Have a fantastic weekend, and see you online. Bye, everyone.